Hello and welcome to the Rugby Review Show here on New Zealand Sports Radio. Yes, we come at you every Sunday at 8 p.m. reviewing all of the action from the weekend. This weekend we have got Bledisloe Cup action, and we might even talk about some of the action because I've got a funny feeling that talking about cards will take up a fair chunk of the show. We also have the Probables versus Possibles that played on Saturday. We also, as well as a whole host or a full round of Mitre 10 Cup games to go through as well. There's also been some Super Rugby unlocked, some Top 14 and Pro 14, but a funny feeling that between Ashwin, myself and Cornflake, we probably haven't seen any of those Super Rugby Top 14 or Pro 14 games, and so we probably won't be discussing those too much. Maybe a score update for you if you're really lucky. Otherwise, though, it's going to be a lot of talk around cards, isn't it, Stephen?
Oh, come on now. Don't be like that. So there's this whole host of stuff to talk about. I mean, how many weeks has it been since I've been on here? I mean, I've been building it all up now. I've got a whole host ready to unleash the fury. But hey, we'll talk about that, I'm sure.
I've had to put boundaries around John O'Connor because he goes off on down tunnels. This is the review show where we just review the games. If you want to put all your pent up stuff, then you've got to come on the Driving Maul show on a Tuesday night, where we talk about all the hot topics in rugby, such as, yes, should you have red cards or not? We're not going to go into that one tonight. What else are we going to talk about on that one? I've gone blank. Oh, yes, COVID and the Autumn Nations Cup. There's a whole stack of things that we'll be talking about on the Driving Maul show on Tuesday night. But tonight, Steve, you have to stick to the games. Okay, you sure? You good?
Go the Stags. That's all
Go the Stags, exactly. Ashwin, are you unlike Steve, we've both actually been at grounds this weekend amongst the people in the stands. We are down with the real supporters of rugby, so you've been to the grand old lady Eden Park this weekend.
Well, I have took the family along. Unfortunately, as I said to Aidan while we're sitting in the stands, it's like, didn't bring mum and sis to the right game, did we? It was a bit of a dog of a game.
Oh, we had a few of those this weekend, let's be honest. Don't forget, folks, if you're watching the recording or listening to the podcast, you can join us live and ask us questions in the live comments, and we will get through those as well. So good evening, Simon. Great to see you joining us on YouTube, but you can also join us on Facebook or Twitter as well, and put your comments through there. So I guess there's only one place to start, folks, and that is the Bledisloe Cup, isn't it? Cornflake, what did you make of the commentators saying, how could this Wallabies team that lost last weekend play so well this weekend?
Oh, well, you're feeding straight into my comics post-match, aren't you? I wrote on that. It's, yeah. I mean, we'll go back to, you could probably talk about commentary for that whole test match. I mean, normally old Marshall and that they are, I guess, a fairly little bit biased towards the All Blacks. They seem to be quite biased, I think, in this whole test match. I'm sure we'll talk about the whole card situation and things about that later on. But yeah, talking about that, how can the Wallabies, the fight back that they charged to bring this team, the same team that got smashed by 38 points, they've charged back and they've shocked the All Blacks and done it. But let's be honest, there was a whole host of changes in both of those teams that it was almost really barely recognisable from either of those two sides. A ground that obviously Australia has a good record on. I don't think last weekend, yes, their confidence took a big hit, but I think the Wallabies have learned a lot. They've brought a lot of youth into this team, and a lot has grown in that side. And I think the team that loses always has a lot more to learn than the team that won. So the Wallabies have seen that match last week. They got pumped pretty bad, and they've learned a lot from that. The All Blacks said, we played pretty well. Here's a little touch-up things here or there we need to do. The Wallabies completely, went for something different. They changed a lot of their side, a lot of their players, a lot of the way they played as well. And it played dividends for them. I mean, a lot of us are pretty sitting here going, what are they doing in that number 10 jumper? They got two very similar players in their midfield. Who's Lockie Swinton, a lot of question marks about that team, but as a squad, I think as a unit, they developed, they learnt, and they actually built quite nicely on the previous week, and that came quite nicely, I think, for them in this matchup. And yeah, you got to give them the credit how they came into that game and how they performed.
No, you're muted, Paul.
Got too many computers going. Oh no! We will get on to red and yellow cards later. But yeah, you do have to give the Wallabies credit. It is a very different side. I'll be honest, I was like, why are you playing Reese Hodge at why are you playing Reese Hodge at 10? And look, he stepped up, had a good game. A much better combination in the centres this week. And look, the Wallabies did come out a much improved side. But they were two very different selections, as well as sides from last weekend, weren't they?
And key areas as well. Like talk about that midfield, but I think on the flip side of that for the All Blacks, of course, that midfield for them, which I mean, Jack Goodhue cops a lot of flack, doesn't he? And from us armchair critics, I can't agree with it at all. I think the work he does off the spotlight. It's instrumental to the way that team plays, and defensively he misses one or two, but I think structurally in that backline he holds us together very, very well, and I think they missed that. You got to feel sorry for a lot of people, and I guess we'll talk about that later. But Akira Ioane, he comes in. I mean, you got to feel sorry for the poor guy, but they had that sort of system going in that back row that was working quite well. So a lot of changes, a lot of big areas that were kind of just flipped, and I mean. Do we go back to this discussion again of, maybe Richie Mo'unga ain't so bad at number 10 after all, is he?
But look, Reese Hodge is someone that, park that one for a second. We'll come back to that. Reese Hodge is someone that we think booming kick, strong tackler, strong runner, and that's pretty much it. But he showed a bit of finesse with chips over and some game control, which I thought, which to say, really, really impressed by him this time. He doesn't get to play 10 very often. He doesn't play 10 for his for the Rebels because that's where Matt Tamua plays. He started for the Wallabies 2 years ago, I think, in a number 10. So he hasn't played for internationally at 10 for ages as well. So look, good on him for that one. Aaron says, look, the All Blacks showed a total lack of composure during that game. And Ashwin, that was one of the things that you were talking about during that, because Ashwin and I watched the game together, but you were talking about, look, why are you kicking the ball away when you've got a man up? The decision making for the All Blacks was horrible, wasn't it?
Absolutely horrible. It's just like, it just didn't add up with the situation of the game, what was happening in the game. And as you said, like the obvious one was that you're man up and you're kicking the ball away. You just don't kick the ball away when you're man up, basically, and there's opportunities on the field.
Yep. Wow, this is very reserved, Ashwin, today.
I'm just waiting for you. I was going to talk about the Reese Hodge. I mean, we would refer to it while we're watching the game, and it's a shame that Stephen Harris can't make it on the show today because he'll probably get this a bit more. Steve Cornflakes might remember, but I think we underestimate a steady first five that doesn't do anything wrong. And I go back to All Blacks having someone like Simon Culhane back in the day, and it's just like he was not a flashy first five, but he did the right things and he got the team in the right parts of the field and got the team moving forward. You don't have to have a flash first five if they execute what they need to do really well and do their basics really well. So, and that's what Reese Hodge is, and I've often sort of said, I mean, he's got a massive boot. It makes sense to have him at 10. I know Nocturnals, he says he talked about it last week. Obviously, I wasn't on the show last week. But look, if you're in trouble, what better than to give it to Reese Hodge to kick the living daylights out of it down the other end of the field? It's a great tactic.
What I found about that whole Wallabies backline, though, you look at that backline and the last 4 tests now, but say before this one, the 3 beforehand, who have been the real standout players? That first test, Nick White, he was phenomenal. Paisami and Pattaya, those 2 guys consistently, when they've played, they have come in and out of the team, but especially Pattaya, massive trouble. He is a phenomenal player, excellent player. Up there, he'll be a Wallaby, and he'll be a Wallaby great in 10 years' time or 15 years' time, however long he plays for, provided he stays injury-free, of course, through that. But he takes a lot of attention, doesn't it? Reese Hodge has a lot of guys out there that he can just give the ball to and get him out of trouble. Getting rid of that sort of playmaker, theory sort of player at 12, like Simone's and that sort of guy. Yeah, it's get rid of that. You just got guys that's just going to smash up, make you meters, break tackles, and get you that go forward momentum. Hey, the defense has gone backwards. They've said, hey, now I've got space, I've got time, I can kick. And you got to watch out for Nick White, because he is a guy that has been consistently pretty good throughout the series as well. I think that had played in the hands as well. The All Blacks had to watch. They couldn't go, Reese Hodge, you're our target. We're going to absolutely pummel you through that corridor. They had to watch out because, Paisami and Pattaya, fantastic combination. Those guys are great to watch.
Well, I'm actually going to go the other way a little bit in terms of the All Blacks sort of side of things, and it's just like that was a very different All Black side to a week ago. You know, and the fact is that that's an All Blacks team that hasn't had combination time going. You're talking about Bowden. I know we'll come to Bowden Barrett and Richie Mo'unga a bit later, but you know, a guy that hasn't been in the saddle of 10 for a few weeks and at that level as well. So, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's sort of like, in full credit to the opposition and smashed and bro and all that. But really, realistically speaking, it's, you know, can you go too hard on that All Black side? Nah, you can't. I mean, at the end of the day, they lost by 2 points, and it's a new combinations.
And they gained a lot. Like all the players that got their debuts, they got time, they got start.
Yeah, and
they got their playing time together at that level as well. And so, what have they lost? Okay, in the record books, we'll say a 2-point loss to Australia.
Yeah,
but what it gains is all these guys getting, and you learned a lot too. There's a lot learned about that atmosphere. Player down now. Okay, where does the mindset go? Oh, hang on, we're back on level peaks. How does that affect how we play? How does that affect what you do, what he does, and just the mindset, the mental part?
You mentioned one player and who had the unfortunate debut, and that's Akira Ioane, and it's just like, you know, what you learned there was the fact is that, you know, for, you know, the maligned Akira Ioane at Super Rugby level is actually up to international level, because in that first 20 minutes before he had to take the walk off to the seats, he was the standout All Black on that field. Adi Severe came into the game a bit later.
He played very well, but what we have seen is a more mature Akira Ioane this season than we have.
Sure, but hang on, Paul. Hang on, Paul. But he's still outside of Auckland. They're still having a go at how he's a show pony and doesn't do the hard work. Even though he's played how many minutes of rugby, he doesn't get subbed, all that sort of stuff. He still gets maligned as the player who is a show pony and doesn't put in the hard yards. Last night, we saw at the beginning of a game, he was making yards in a fresh defence. And he's the only All Black that was making yards in a fresh defence. So what you saw is that when you've got a back row backup that can come in and take the place of a Severe, of a Hoskins, a Subtutu, and obviously a Scott Barrett if he's on a blind side, or whoever you're starting with, your Frizzell or whatever. So, you know, you've got backup there, and it's a quality backup, not just somebody that's making up numbers.
We are not starting with Scott Barrett at number 6 ever again.
I was waiting for that. Hey, if we're doing commiserations,
we should have started with a lock.
You're doing commiserations for players from that test match. Can we do a small, short one for Will Jordan as well?
Well, we'll send you a videotape so you can remember your time on the field.
Oh, that sucks. I mean, Akira's was a bit, that was unfortunate, but hey, what did you get, 20 minutes or so? Oh, Will Jordan comes in, one tackle. Hello, fairies, and then see you later. Oh, poor guy. I feel sorry. I was excited by what that bench had to offer. You had some real X-factor guys in there that could single-handedly change a game. I'll probably talk about it later, but I feel they were a little bit too late, and the impact was muted by things like that. But yeah, that was the end of the game. We'll get there.
Oh, and by Dane McKenzie coming on first time, boom. Hello, Corabetti's right in your face. Yes, I mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what minute did he come on, though? Was it the 74th minute or something like that? I mean, It's hard to make such an impact like that. They were a man down at that stage as well. Forcing the issue. And you know McKenzie's not a player that plays well when you're forcing the issue. When things are cruising, momentum's high, the hype is high, and he jumps on that Sevu Reese hype train, things are good for McKenzie. When pressure's on, I just don't think he's got that mental sort of guy. Talking
about the Sevu Reese hype train, he was a guy that was largely anonymous in this one, wasn't he? It sounds bad to say this after when it's only his second season, but I think his international time may have come and gone with players like Caleb Clark coming through. I just whether that's gone.
I think you're right. But I'm not going to, I mean, like the problem comes back to a comment I made earlier. I think, you got a lot of guys that have been spending a lot of time picking up splinters sitting on the pine, right? And then you're coming in and you haven't played for a while. Pretty hard to sort of like step it up sort of straight away, isn't it? And but I think outside of his performance yesterday, you saw that you've got players like Caleb Clark, as you mentioned, that have actually probably usurped him in that position. Not really through his fault.
But we say that now, but let's go for 12 months. Are we going to have the same conversation about Caleb Clark, who's the next big guy coming up? That's a second season thing. And there was a lot of talk about Tom Robinson, the Auckland flanker. Remember him 2 years ago? What was that, 2019, was it, that he had that massive breakout season? Everyone's like, no, 2 seasons of Super Rugby before you go to All Black jersey. You've got to back up that season. He got shafted, didn't he? Boy, he got shafted. And now, look, he's... Okay, maybe he didn't have that second season, he didn't have that opportunity. But now we see these other guys coming through, bang, straight to the top. A guy, great season, fantastic. 12 months down the track, though, back it up.
Yeah, I just sort of think, in terms of Caleb Clark, difference.
Seven Reese is the wrong, he plays on the right wing, and he's not really what the All Blacks normally take on the right wing, right? He's very different, a very different style player to Jordy Barrett, Israel Dagg,
Ben Smith.
And even Caleb, really, I was just going to say, Caleb Clark's a little bit different in the fact that what we saw from Caleb Clark, and we've seen from him at Super Rugby and then last year at Mitre 10 sort of thing, was that he's a player that's his work rate is high. He's always involved. He's looking for work. He's aerially, even though he doesn't look it, aerially he's quite good. For such a big guy, he gets up off the ground and takes that ball. So he's got a lot of skill factors that that make you think that, I mean, like, there's no guarantees in life, right? But you sort of think he's quite a bit of early days, but you can see him being a fixture on the wing for the All Blacks.
Well, there's death and taxes. But anyway, but apart
exactly.
From death, taxes, and then controversy around red cards. Those are the three factors in the three certainties in life. Okay, then let's look. I've managed to keep us away from it for the first 17 minutes of the show, but time to get into the red cards then. So I know what Ashwin's response is going to be because I was sat next to him while he was blowing up during the game. So Cornflake, take us through the offer red card. What did you see as it happened, and then tell us whether you think it was red or not.
Oh, goodness me. Well, I mean, to be fair, you can go both of these tackles.
Oh, we lost them.
Oh, no.
Oh, there is a God. It's my turn.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Okay.
Let's start off with offers one. Please.
And just first describe it as to what happened.
We're going through what happened. Right? Let's look at what happened in that tackle first. Let's talk about the contact area. Now, as we actually see, watch the video. Who makes contact first? Now, I've forgotten the Australian player's name. You'll remind me?
No, I won't.
Okay. The Australian player makes contact, his shoulder makes contact with Offa's head before Offa even makes contact with the Wallabies player. So, hello, I don't understand. And the other thing is that the Australia player leads with the shoulder. So the ball is in the hand that's away from Offa, and his leading shoulder makes contact with Offa's head before Offa's shoulder makes contact with his head.
Well, okay.
And out of that, they judge Offa to be a red card. Can we figure? Pardon?
There's a forearm on the shoulder that
it doesn't matter, does it? It's whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's with force. It's contact to the head with force, and we have seen attacking players in exactly the same situation red carded as well.
Yep. So he then. So yes, you're right. So Wrights they made a contact. Wrights led with his forearm, made contact with Offa's head. And you can see Offa's head move to the side, Offers shoulder, then makes contact with Wright's neck and chin area, and to me it looked also like Wright was also dropping as well. Now, to give the referee his dues in this one, and to compare him to the referee from last week, what he did do was he stepped through what he saw happen, and we could actually understand what he was calling, which was good to see. Right? He said, "Look, I've got shoulder to the head. I don't see any mitigation." Now we can agree or disagree with him on that one. I think there was, in the fact that he was dropping, and therefore it's red. So I can understand why it's red for offer. What I don't understand is why he didn't also look at the player leading into the tackle.
Shoulder.
I don't think his forearm to Offer's head sort of made Offer come up to make Offer's tackle any less, to make Offer's tackle illegal. He didn't cause it illegal. That's by Offer's height relative to him.
Yeah, I have to make it. And the other thing is that I made the comment while we were watching it, and it is so obvious during this game. Now, I want to take a step back, and I'm going to agree with something that you guys started with Justin Marshall and Grant Nisbet's commentary. They are just getting more and more biased as they get age, basically. And so, that's happened there, and that is really obvious what's happening there too. But in saying that, that game was massively influenced by the TV director.
And
that is so obvious. That is so obvious. There are numerous incidents in that game that aren't looked at. Numerous neck rolls, arms around necks and mauls, and that's towards the end of the first half. And they're not even reviewed or looked at all. And we know how they take neck rolls and arms around necks, and they're not even looked at. And every little incident that an All Black player made contact with the head is immediately reviewed. And it's just like.
Hang on, so let's just why don't we Stephen back in? But also, when you mean reviewed, you mean replayed on the big screen.
Look at it, but
rather than necessarily the referee.
But the influence was there. Yeah, look, whatever's happening in the background doesn't matter. The influence is there, and it's been run by the TV director in terms of the outcome of the game. And it's like, this needs to be looked at. It is a severe issue within the game. And we see it at Mitre 10, Super Rugby, all the levels. And I'm not sort of saying it's a Australia thing. It's like wherever the hometown game is being played, and the TV director has an influence on the game.
Now, that's a topic for another day, I think, rather than necessarily with this. But because I think otherwise we could spend the next half hour on that. Cornflake, you froze just as you were about to give us your opinion on Offer's card.
I think my PC was just like, oh no, here it comes. I'm not having this again. Just die. Oh, goodness me. Okay, so, without knowing what you guys are really talking about, but touching on what Ashwin just said, after that, that red card, 2 neck rolls on All Black defenders straight away and a forward pass, bang, 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 in about 4 phases. And I was just like, why aren't we watching this? Why, so much emphasis on one sort of thing and the other. But these cards, okay, so similar sort of thing. I was kind of talking to myself there for a second there before I noticed everyone else was just like frozen. But similar sort of tackles, weren't they? The attacking player was still on his way down. I mean, if we're going to talk about what sort of card they'll be, I mean, you look at that and you say, well, this modern day game, I see it on Twitter, Angus Gardner, get your pockets ready because there's going to be some yellow cards dishing out. I thought that's what we're going to have, especially for Tuanga Fasi's hit first. I was like, well, that's definitely yellow. Why are we still, going on looking over this over and over again? But I mean, if we want to talk about the referee in this instance, okay, you gave the yellow card to Tuanga Fasi. Yeah, you can see here, and I've seen people go on about the red, go on, that's the rules of the game. That's the laws of the game. If you don't like it, well, get stuff because that's how the game is ruled. Okay, well, that's fine. But I think we need to give the referee a little bit of credit. The fact that he was consistent in that call. And you saw, the internet exploded when that second tackle hit and it was looking at the big screen. It's like, well, if the spotlight wasn't on this guy from that first red card, there's certainly a huge, big glaring one on him right now because if this doesn't go the same, because they were pretty much similar sort of tackles. Players going down, players in the tackle, hitting the head.
I disagree. I disagree with you on that one there, Cornflakes. I thought the Australia tackle, it was right? Was it? What was the guy? The debutant, Swindon. Sorry. He actually goes in there with an arm tucked. He's not looking to wrap the arm, make a tackle at all. The arm is tucked, and he's making direct contact. So his isn't even a legal tackle that he's made. So even without contact to the head, he would have got a yellow card for a no arms tackle. Whereas Offa's actually, his only indiscretion was supposedly about the fact that he's gone in high into the tackle, as opposed to Swindon, who basically went in with no arms tackle.
It brings back that conversation that we probably have every season. It's like, how low do you need to go? And although I hate to say this, I really do hate to say that. I thought I'd never want to ever say this, but John Kerwin, it was kind of right. The fact that you want to go into a tackle. I know, I don't believe I always say it, but you want to go in a tackle as the aggressor. You want to go in as the player making the aggressive movement into stopping and moving forward. So moving that attack backwards, getting that momentum towards your team. And it's just it's hard when you've got to be so, I guess, in that situation. He was set, and I mean you kind of see it. Toinga Fussy was actually set in that tackle for a long time because he had another guy right there. He had guys on his other side. He didn't need to move. He was in position that if he sidesteps me, don't worry, there's a guy there. If he steps back that way, there's a guy there. This is my space, and you're not coming through. And I mean, yes, it hit the head. Yes, the yellow card, whatever that. But still, you start to wonder, it's kind of like the whole thing of jumping into catching a pass and getting tackled while you're in the air. It's those sort of things that there's just a bit of that, grey sort of area of the laws, isn't there?
I think I think basic players World Rugby is basically saying lower your tackle height. And the message doesn't seem to be getting across to players or across to coaches. Sorry, because it's coaches who are doing the training of the technique to the players because they're still trying to tackle around the shoulder height. Whereas actually, guys, you're going to have to take that about 3 inches down and get down to the sternum. Hit there. Then, if there's a bit of a drop, or if you slightly misjudge it, you're going to hit the shoulders or you're going to hit the stomach. You're not going to hit the head. And I think that message hasn't got through to the coaches yet. Because I don't think we've seen a big change in the way that we're seeing players tackle, and that's clearly what World Rugby is trying to force now, or trying to cause for about 2 years.
It highlights an interesting point, though, as the fact is that and what Cornflakes said before is that, but how effective are you being if you're tackling around the shoulders? Because you're then going to be more upright yourself, which means that you can't get the momentum to tackle the attacker backwards. You're going to be too upright to actually push him back. When you get your stance in a tackle situation, if you tackle lower, your body's leaning forward, so your momentum's going forward to be able to hit the attacker and drive him backwards. You're never going to really drive an attacker backwards when you're tackling him around the shoulders.
Yeah, but it's also known that we're trying to wrap up the arms so they can't flow.
What you just said, if you're tackling around the sternum nipple line, you're still wrapping his arms up, so that's making it, unless he's getting his arms up high, and then at the end of the day, you get your Sonny Bill type way, and he used to wave it around up above his head and basketball pass it or whatever. You're not going to stop that anyway. So realistically speaking, I don't actually see that point, and say that 3 or 4 inches going that much higher. What are you really gaining from it?
Good technique though, going kind of away from the whole card situation. Jordy Barrett made some absolutely phenomenal tackles. I can't remember who it was, but he picked the guy up right in that mid-drift. I saw it going up, and I'm like, he's going to go upside down, and this is going to end a disaster. But thankfully he didn't. He just absolutely smacked him straight into the turf, fully legal. One of the best proper sort of tackles that you kind of want to see everyone. He did probably 2 or 3 of them in the match. So I thought that that's what everyone should be kind of targeting to do, and they will just shut the play down, bang.
And there's a player who has really stepped up his game, hasn't he? He seems to. He's always had moments, but he's kind of had mistakes in him. But we've not seen those mistakes. He's got rid of those mistakes from his game this year, and he's playing very well at this level.
I don't know if you guys talked about the commentary during those card periods much while I was like frozen like a scarecrow. But Justin Marshall's lost his marbles, hasn't he? I mean, the comments going on there. This is a penalty. This is just a penalty. There's nothing in there. This is just a penalty. I mean, no matter what side of the fence you sit on, if you've watched a game of rugby before, if a tackle hits the guy's head, you're going to the bin. If the guy's in the air and it's falling, you're going to have a look. He's going to the bin. I mean, yes, okay, the whole yellow and red thing, whatever, that's always going to be up for discussion. But you're going there, you're knocking the guy in the mug. It's a yellow card. To argue that a penalty or not even that, let's move on. Yeah, they need to be realistic here. They're getting a bit too, like the Aussies. I think like they are getting pretty biased. They've been biased for years, but I just think Marshall just has lost his marbles in that game. He had a shocker.
Yeah, I actually did allude to that while you were impersonating Elsa being frozen. I actually did. I alluded to the fact that I think that Nisbo and Marshall are basically just getting more and more biased as the sort of the age is going along.
And then the comment at the end about how the same teams that was terrible. Lots of comments throughout the whole game where you're just like, come on, guys, let's be a bit more open minded. Let's be a bit more, say what the action is, say it how it is. Let's be real about this.
Yep. Yeah, and Boa mentions in the live chat orange card. Boa, I'm sure we can discuss that on Tuesday on the Driving Maul show. As whether we need another colour of card to make things even more complicated because it's all just too.
What happened to the blue card? Wasn't there a blue card coming as well?
Oh,
there is a blue card at grassroots level. Yes.
HIA, right?
Sorry.
The blue card for HIA.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Something I mentioned on Twitter that I did want to bring up to you guys. Why isn't that rule that was in?
It's one of the things you said earlier, which was credit to the referee here. Two things.
Okay.
One, as you said, he was consistent, and two, he was clear with what he was doing. Now people in the ground won't have heard it, but we could hear on TV. He stepped through and explained exactly why he was making the call. You knew why he was making a call. Whether you agreed with the decisions he was making at each stage, that's another thing. The referee last week with the high tackle, Dungooni's high tackle on. Not high tackle, sorry. Contact in the air on Caleb Clark and coming down. He was just like, made contact in the air. It looks all right. Yellow. It's like, no, mate. Look, you've got a framework, like for high tackles, for contacts in the air. You should be.
No, I disagree with you, Paul. I'll disagree with you, and I'll give. I think O'Keefe wasn't it last week. He actually made comments that they felt that Sam Cane had impacted the situation, and that's why it was a yellow card. See, when we looked at that, they made the comment along the lines of Sam Cane had an effect on the play, and that's why it was only a yellow card, not a red.
Now, to me, I don't think he made that clear enough. I think what he should have said was, we've had contact, he's fallen this way, any mitigations, yes, this, boom, that's why the decision. I don't think, it wasn't clear to me.
No, I thought it was clear. I mean, because we were all screaming for a red card. And then it's just like, well, if he felt that Sam Cane had an impact on the play, then it's going to be, he's going to say it's a yellow card rather than a red. So that's why, I mean, he didn't necessarily bullet point it like last night, but he definitely made comment about the fact that he felt that there was an impact from Sam Cane.
Yeah, I think he should have
which was bollocks.
Like that.
Which was bollocks like yesterday where the Australian wasn't dropping. We'll avoid going on to listening to alternative commentary. We've got enough middle-aged white guys spouting rubbish on the internet already, like me, to go listening to those guys. You don't want to listen to middle-aged white guys. Listen to middle-aged brown guys.
So, Stephen, you were going to talk to us about something you said on Twitter.
Oh, okay, right. Yes, my noted point here on the whiteboard. Now, there's a rule in Super Rugby Aotearoa and Super Rugby AU. Red cards get replaced after 10 minutes of the infringement happening. Why is that not a rule that is, going to be put through at international rugby? I mean, all the time we had in Super Rugbies, we didn't get to use that rule. Now we have, the fourth test of the year. Bang, we could have used it twice. Thoughts?
I suspect it was because it wasn't initially purely an Australia-New Zealand competition, or obviously in Argentina, obviously, but South Africa being involved. And it's like now you have to, like obviously Australia and New Zealand using it. Now you have to get South Africa to agree to doing something different. Unless they're using it are they using it in their Super Rugby competition?
Not that I'm aware of. I've not heard of any changes to the laws for their one. You don't trial laws at international level.
We've trialled them.
No, but we've trialled them at Super Rugby.
It worked fine.
Yeah, totally.
Great.
Yeah. I think it was purely because South Africa were going to be involved.
No, both of you, no. We haven't trialled them at Super Rugby. We didn't get it.
We had 2 competitions.
We had 2 competitions. What do you call that? We had to get a Stellenbosch to do it.
The goal line dropouts was rubbish. We scrapped them.
Yes,
we just kept the good ones.
Yeah.
We should have kept the good ones.
Should have kept the good ones.
Straight to Bledisloe. So that's the next try.
You're both mad. You don't trial stuff.
You gotta love it when the one guy disagrees and the 2 guys that are mad.
Absolutely. Remember, this is my show and my channel.
It's English colonialism coming through again, eh?
Yeah, shut up, the 2 of you, because I'm the boss here, and it's my channel, and they're being muted now. I'll unmute and bring them back to you, everybody.
We speak sign language.
Oh. Just going to get the whiteboard out then and start writing messages. Send help.
Before we get on to Southland and spend the next 2 hours on Southland, any final comments about Bledisloe that you guys want to talk about?
I'm going to move on to yellow cards, and you know where I'm going. This is like shocking that before the end of the first half, Australia gets 1 yellow card, infringes straight away, and then doesn't get a second yellow card. That's just nuts. That's encouraging them to do cynical play, which is what they did. Roll on another sort of 20-odd, 30 minutes. Scott Barrett gets a cynical yellow card for a cynical play straight away. What's the difference?
They finished. Was that all?
Yeah, totally, man. That's
that was quite disappointed by that.
Obvious.
Oh, jeez. A yellow.
What do you think? Paul disagrees with me, so we know that. So
we've graduated. We've graduated from yellow cards to red cards now. So
no, we've gone the other way.
On. I do agree with you though. I mean, that whole end of that first half was just penalty city. Like how many players are going to get sent off? I mean, the welcome to country guy was right. Just about was a game of rugby league, wasn't it? When he said 13 on 13 almost. It was he is that guy is like the mythical octopus. He knows exactly what's going to happen. If he has another game, we're going to be in trouble. But I want to add to my extra little points. We learnt a lot in that test match. TJ Perenara is not one of the world's great scrum halves. How much was Aaron Smith missed in that game? Although Perenara had an absolute shocker. Yep. The Richie Mo'unga and Jordy Barrett battle will go on for another 60 weeks or so after that. And Laumape's not a test player either. I don't know. That'll get a few people going, won't it? But
I think I'm not sold on Laumape, but I think it's a bit harsh on Laumape because the forward pack didn't perform like the one that did the previous week. How would he go behind a forward pack that's going to be performing better?
Can't get a forward pack.
How's he going to go behind a forward pack or a halfback that passes out better, that performs better? So it's a bit unfair to sort of someone like Laumape, really. With TJ, I agree with you. I mean, I think during Super Rugby in Aotearoa, we saw the fact that he's not all that he's cracked up to be. And I think if Brad Weber had got a decent crack, he would have usurped TJ Perenara as the number 2 halfback. I think Weber with the speed and his game management is better than Perenara.
He's going overseas, isn't he? Perenara, he's gone. Japan?
Oh, just a year.
But only sabbatical in the same way that Jordy Barrett has as well.
Has Finney Christie committed to a union yet? We're going a bit off track here, but
what do you mean a union?
Well, he's a Scotsman, isn't he?
Oh, right. You mean New Zealand or Scotland?
Yeah, he's Scottish.
Yeah. But I believe so. But no, I don't think he has actually committed.
If he's playing Super Rugby, then he's basically committed.
Yeah, at the moment, but it depends on how long's his Blues contract, right?
Jeez, there's a lot of Pacific Island players that play Super Rugby that obviously commit to Pacific Islands, aren't they? So similar sort of thing. But yeah, TJ's out the window for me. Aaron Smith, number 1, streaks ahead of the rest. See you, TJ.
I'm with you that Laumape had a poor game, and I'm yet to see him really do it at international level. So yeah, but I've been a great fan of his and thought he should have gone for the World Cup. I think because and things like that. So I thought he should have had more opportunities than he's had. I think a bit too. Perhaps it doesn't have the range of skills that someone like a Goodhue has. Where if he isn't behind a going forward pack, there are other things he can do to help out.
again, to be fair, I think when we talk about it, there was no composure, but pretty much for 80 minutes from the All Blacks. There was little structure, and where Laumapi actually performs really well is when you've got even if you've got a set defense, but you've got good clean ball coming out, give it to him, and he's that little sort of dump truck that can and just hits that line and goes forward, right? And it's like he never actually got a single opportunity in the game to do that in a clean situation. It was very messy game right throughout.
I think if we're going to be too critical.
One of the things we have seen over the last couple of weeks is people is Sam Cane doing really well as captain. He lost his head during this game as well, and yeah, too many players lost their composure. I'm happy for Lamar to have another go, but I'd say on this game's evidence, there wasn't enough for me.
Are you talking about the little flick? Are you talking about the little flick that Sam Cane gave?
I think he just lost his composure. Full stop. Scott Barrett also lost his composure. Yeah, I mean, you're lying in a ruck and you put your hand out, knocking out the scrum half.
That was dumb. Monique thinks he's dumb.
If you want to be too critical on them, I think that first little stands where they scored that first try, where Rico stole it from Akira's debut try. I think that was quite composed. I think that was probably the best passage that the All Blacks had in the whole match, because phase after phase, the defence was set and they weren't going anywhere, but they didn't try a stupid grubber kick or something that is that low percentage sort of play that's never going to come off for them. They just kept hammering away, and finally someone broke a tackle. That gave them the opening. That fractured the defence, and from there on it just built on. They were composed greatly then, I thought, at that point. After that try,
there was nothing.
Yeah, that was in the 9th minute before the Wallabies got under their skin. And let's be honest.
Oh, for sure, but that's what I mean. But that stage of the game, they played very, very committed. But I think before we wrap up on this game, though, you've got to give the Wallabies enough credit on how they actually played here. We've talked about how the goods and bads of the All Blacks, but isn't it amazing to see that youth of Australia really standing up? The likes of seeing Angus Bell now getting test caps. How good is Taniela Tupou? That guy is up there with one of the best sort of maybe a scrummager and out in the field running prop as well. He's playing exceptionally well. That midfield partnership we've touched on as well. The two Toms, I think, looked a million times more dangerous than Haylett Petty did the week before. They got a lot more ball running around. They were better in open field. They just looked a lot more like they're at home. I just think this young kind of breed coming through this Wallaby setup is great. Matt Phillip, I think, has been the find of Australian rugby this season in their pack and their type 5. He's been phenomenal for them as well. So that Harry Wilson, and they've still got so much more to come from those other young guys as well, the Liam Wrights and Tate McDermott. Big fan of him as well. So I think, Australia have got a lot to look forward to. Their team looks really good. There's actually guys getting performance and is now up at this level, coming up to test the match level as well. So, got to give them credit. Can't just write them off.
Right of reply.
Sure.
I've always gone on. It's just like when you look at Super Rugby Gold or Super Rugby AU, I always used to say that, look, they don't need to have 150 Super Rugby or international level players. They need to find 23 match day players, which so I always thought then they had that within their Super Rugby teams. In saying that, I think that one swallow doesn't make a summer. And they need to back that up. And unfortunately for us, we're not going to see that opportunity because Argentina aren't going to be competition.
They thrashed their B team.
Yeah.
What was the score in that game?
Pretty frustrating, actually.
47-23 or something, roughly.
Okay. So
which could be wrong.
Which is a good sign, and hopefully Argentina are competitive. But we're not. Quite a few of us are not holding out much hope for that. I guess what we also at the beginning of this, we said, look, lots of rotation by the All Blacks. It's the beginning of the World Cup cycle. A lot of players have got experience. It's been good. And we can say the exact same thing about the Wallabies here. There's been lots of rotation. They've used quite a lot of players in these 4 games. That's going to set them up good for the future. And I think Dave Rennie has got them playing for him, which is good. And I think they're heading in the right direction. What does this game mean? The result of this game mean that, we've got a Wallabies team that's going to be a top 3 side in the world going forwards. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see on that. It is. They do have to back it up. But I think, we've seen a lot of change. He's got a lot. He'll know his team a lot better after these 4 games. Things are still looking bright for the Wallabies.
He's got to wear shades.
You've got 5 minutes maximum before we have to move on to some of the other Mitre 10 Cup games. So Cornflake, go. Southland, go.
Oh, the best rugby team in the Mitre 10 Cup, led by the glorious and fantastic leader among all sorts of pigeons and Tony Lamborn. What can you talk about the Southern Stags?
Pigeon?
What's that?
Pigeons?
Leader amongst pigeons? What's that all about?
What else? Leader amongst all sorts of things. He'll lead the bellbirds to war if they get behind him. He will just take anything, and that team is playing for a fantastic leader. Is this team any better than last season? Marginally, I guess they've improved in slight ways, but what they've improved in mostly is playing as a team, as a unit, and as a squad. A lot of players have come through the team this season. There's been talk about rotation and things like that. They've used a lot of deeper squad. They've got guys match experience, and they've still maintained that decent level of performance. What was probably the most pleasing thing is everyone coming to this game and they're going, oh, it's not pouring refrain in Southland. What are we ever going to do? It's not going to be a 10-9 thriller. No, the Stags, as we know, they like to play their attacking rugby. Just because it's not sunny here every day of the week, there's a little bit of rain now and then. But, they showed that they have that attacking intent, that ability to run the ball, and the players that can actually finish it. But I credit that fully down to leadership. I just think Tony Lamborn is a guy that just drags those guys through. Pleasance Tate, another one. He is a guy that just brings that team throughout. They'll do anything. Yeah, those guys. They
also, a guy we need to give credit to also is a guy you've talked to, interviewed earlier this season, which is the head coach as well. Look, it's his second season there now. I've gone blank to his name now.
Dale McLeod.
Dale McLeod, that's it. His second season there. He's been working well with the clubs down there. He's been talking to Tony Lamborn since Christmas. Around having that role and around how they're going to put together a team for this for this one. They've had a whole stack load of injuries. They've been bringing in bush farmers.
Farmers, Paul, come on, just farmers.
Just farmers. Okay.
You're farming the bush.
They've been farming the bush. To come and play. And to after what was a pretty poor performance against Manawatu last weekend, they've managed to turn things around against Otago, which leaves them still, I think, in with a shout of playoffs, which after last season's results, I don't think we really gave any credence to the idea that Otago were in it to win it this year. And if you're not in it to win it, what's the point being in it? I think that was a bit wishful thinking is how I saw it initially. But hey, look, they're still in with a shout of the of the thing. Now, yes, comment there from Oxon saying, yeah, Josh Wani looked like he played drunk. Now, look, Josh has clearly has had some. Now, we don't know the names of the players, of the Highlander players that had an issue in the in Queenstown, but we do know it was younger players. We do know that he turned up for training. Him and a couple of other players turned up for training last weekend, 2 weekends ago. So not the Manawatu game, the game before that that he missed. Because they were not fit to train and therefore they got dropped. Otago do not have that many All Blacks to be dropping an All Black player. Okay, one cap All Black, but even so, to be dropping players of that quality, they came through and still won that game when he didn't play. So look, they seem to be Otago at least taking the right, showing him that look, if you turn something like that, he's going to get dropped. But yeah, he had a shocker on Friday night. Couldn't hit the side of a barn with his kicking.
I think for the Stags, they've got some key areas. And Nocturnal's right when he says Southland always live for Otago. This is like, at the start of the season, this would have been the game. It's like, if we lose everything and win this one game, that's going to be at least one positive to come out of it. That's the one. That's the neighbours. That's who you want to thump. But you look at that team and the key guys they've got going through this, especially in that pack, when you've got good players who can win your set piece. We can kick for touch. And we can get Shelby Rickett up there and we can disrupt lineouts. We can do that. We've got a steady enough scrum with the Highlanders, who I've forgotten his name, at the prop as well. So key areas, you've got guys at set pieces. You can win your line out. You can compete at the scrum. And you've got some players in the back line that can cause a bit of trouble. Tatamaki is an electric little player. I've always enjoyed watching him play. He's been there for a few seasons now as well. Guys that can just, big guys that break tackles and create a bit of trouble. But I think it's mainly that pack, winning the set piece, being able to disrupt your opposition set piece, and just having a guy that can kick the ball away. Scotty, probably not the first name on any team's team sheet, but still, when he doesn't drop it in his own and goal, he can clear it away, kicks it a long way, and does that sort of thing. And I think Dyer coming off the bench is a suitable little replacement as well. But yeah, for me, that type 5, Lambourne and a leader, that's what makes that team what they are and how well they've played this season.
And that guy in the back line with the big hair.
What?
And the guy in the back line with the big hair.
Tatamaki.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Come on, brush up.
But imagine Martin McKenzie going back into that side next year.
What was sweeter about that was Jamie McIntosh playing for Otago. And
how wrong did that look?
Just rub it in his face.
It looked wrong, didn't it? Running around in the blue jersey on it.
I like the fact that Elliot Dixon put on the, up the Stags, and I thought, yeah, Elliot, next season you're coming back too, my friend. Yep.
So, running through some of the other results, 24-10, 24-20, Auckland beating Northland. Ashwin, you were there and you said, yeah, it was one of the worst games you've seen in a long time, I think.
Yeah, I was, particularly the first half. And I think just on the back of Nocturnal's comment about Southland wanting to beat Otago, that's their game of the season. Northland, it's beating Auckland, right? So it's like they were always going to get up for the game, and they're always going to come strong and hard. Doesn't matter. They could have been the bottom of the table and hadn't won a game, and they still come in at Eden Park, and they're going to be going 110%. So it wasn't unexpected in that regard, but after 20 minutes, both Auckland hookers are gone, and really the fact that Auckland actually managed to win that game is a minor miracle, because effectively they had no set piece. They're one man short, because when they lost 2 hookers, it went to Golden Ollie scrums, which also meant that Auckland had to drop a player. Because it's of their own doing, they have to drop a player. So they were down to 14 for 60 minutes of that game. Obviously, before the game, they would have had massive confidence in the scrum and in the line-out. And then basically with the 2 hookers going depowered scrums, Golden Ollie scrums, so there's no platform there. And obviously nobody to throw the ball into the line-outs. And so the line-outs became a real... just a mess. So I want to say an abortion, but I won't say that. It became a real mess. So it's like, it was an absolute, and this is like the fact, and there was knock-ons galore. Every breakdown, or didn't even get to a breakdown, because as soon as the ball was tossed out to someone, whether it was Northland or Auckland, the ball was knocked on. I got a phone call from my mate who was up in the corporates. He was lucky because he was drowning in his sorrows there up in the corporates. And it's just like
drowning with drink, not drowning in the rain.
Yeah. Oh, it's a beautiful day, by the way. It was blue skies.
Oh, okay.
It was supposed to be thunderstorms, and we had blue skies. Anyway, and he brings out, it's like, oh, this is the worst game that we've seen for how long? And he was absolutely right. That first half, just absolutely shocking. I have to say, and I told Paul this last night, this is like, it started off on a really great, the first action in the game, the kickoff, the Northland player catches it, puts the foot out, and the touch judge missed it. It was like he didn't put it on the line, he put it out, and the touch judge missed it. It was like that pretty much summed up the game, and right from where to go.
Yep, still left Auckland top of the table though, which was good for them. Tasman, who was challenging there, somehow managed to lose 0-29 against Canterbury.
Well, we know what happened there.
Go on then.
Crusaders management said, like, if you want to get your money, mate, you better let these boys in so they're not relegated to second division. That's a pretty no-brainer. It's just like, you can't carry on buying players if you haven't got the cash coming in from the Crusaders.
So I do not believe, before we get sued by lawyers, that's allegedly from Ashwin.
Allegedly.
North Harbour versus Counties. Look, that was obviously also in Auckland, but it was we had some horrible rain and wind in that game. Pretty windy game there. Harbour 10-0 up at half-time, playing into the wind, and you've got to say at that point, playing with the wind in the second half, you're like, hey, this game's pretty much all over. And yeah, Hull went on to win that one 32-5 against Counties. Harbour look really kind of happy. They won 5 out of their last 6 games now. Let's be honest, after losing their opening 4 games, I thought they were destined for automatic relegation, and it was all over. But no, they've climbed themselves up into 5th. They're 1 point ahead both Canterbury and Wellington. And they've They go now down to Tauranga next weekend to play Bay of Plenty. Bay of Plenty today against Waikato. Do interrupt if you've actually seen one of these games. I want to say something, guys, because I'm assuming you haven't. Bay of Plenty versus Waikato. Bay of Plenty came out the traps fantastic. Scored a couple of tries. Waikato, if you listen to my interviews, which I'll put up later, they thought it was down to basically opportunistic tries rather than structures. Not quite what I heard from Clayton McMillan after the game. But Waikato worked their way back into it, got themselves an 11-point lead half of the second half, but then allowed Bay of Plenty back into it to lose it on the hooter 30-33. So anyone who's suggesting that the Chiefs were telling Waikato and Bay of Plenty, here's where the money is, let Bay of Plenty win. That's not what happened.
Well, we know that Waikato doesn't have any money and the Chiefs don't have any money, so... A really good game of rugby between those two. I didn't see it. Did either? Stephen, you were at work. Ashwin, you were also working, so I don't think any of us saw Hawke's Bay demolition of Wellington.
Well, I can say that I watched the great updates of the Tribe Sports app going through. So, shout out to Ryan and his lads on that one. But yeah, it was a bit of a demolition job, wasn't it? I kept checking back and it was like 3-3 and then 6-3. I was like, good old fashioned shield battle here. And then, hang on. Yep. There's about 30 points on the board. And it's like, well, this one's done. Put a fork in it. And it was only about half time. So yeah, I mean, Hawke's Bay are showing great guns, aren't they, this season to retain that. And that's theirs. They're done. I'll be happy chappies. Ash Dixon will be in the pub for months.
And they've locked the Ranfurly Shield away for the summer, and they've also guaranteed themselves a home semi-final in the championship as well. They currently top the table, 2 points ahead of Otago, with Southland doing the Hawke's Bay.
You have to say
favours there.
You have to say Hawke's Bay, fantastic job, mate, retaining that Ranfurly Shield. They haven't had easy challenges. It's not like they just had a whole season of easy challenges. They had hard challenges, coming along all the time. So Canterbury was one of them, wasn't it? At home, wasn't it? I think that was, or was that away? Was Canterbury a home shield challenge?
Let me have a quick. So they.
I mean, you're playing Wellington, Canterbury. Obviously.
They defended against. So they took it off.
Otago.
Otago. So no, they beat they beat Canterbury at home before they had the shield.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
So they defended Northland,
Manawatu, and Wellington. So, yeah, North and Manawatu, not the hardest, to be fair.
Harsh.
Oh, apparently there was a... oh, come on. Manawatu, bottom of the table, and Northland are not having a great season. They've only won 4 out of their 5 games. Apparently there was an after-the-whistle melee, which would be a bit sort of aggro involved. So we'll thank everyone who's see all the people who are watching the show have seen this game but all the people on the show haven't. This isn't how this is supposed to work, folks, by the way. I promise you.
That's because we're supposed to we're just in there to entertain them
and argue.
Yeah, exactly.
And then again, I don't think anyone really cared about too much. Manawatu lost to Taranaki 1935. To be honest. Look, come on. Manawatu have only won 1 game this season against the wonderful Stags.
I was going to say, but it's like, so how much does Southland kicking themselves for getting tripped up by Manawatu, though? Yeah, that's going to be the old thorn in the paw over the summer, isn't it? If you don't make it
the whole season, though, look how many games they've lost by 1 and 2 points. They started that season off where they lose 3 of their 4 games, and they'll by a couple of points in every single one. So their season could have been a lot different. North Harbour they beat by a point. I'm just trying to look through who was it they lost. Oh, Waikato 10-9 down here. I mean, one kick could have made a massive difference here against a team like Waikato. So yeah, sure, Taranaki lost by 8 points. So yeah, you could pivot. 4 games on this season that could have actually changed it. But I guess Manawatu, given the position, like Paul was saying, they probably would have gone to that one thinking they're going to win. But I think home ground is quite a big effect, for a team like the Stags. It's not a fantastic home ground, but it's home. They know it. Normally the conditions suit them quite nicely, and then suits your style of play. And they love the old hoardings getting banged.
And it doesn't matter. and it doesn't matter what the scoreline is at the end of the day. Even if Southland loses, you know that the opposition's going to get a cold shower.
Well, the thing is, I said it on Twitter at the end of that matchup. Regardless of result, it was good to see, just the passion and that the teams brought. The fact that they're in games, they're competing,
absolutely.
to the end. It's that old sort of thing with the lower place sides. They don't, we don't expect a championship winning team. We know obviously we don't have the resources and the money and all that sort of thing, but we just want 15 guys to go out there and absolutely give it nuggets. Give it everything they've got. Get the pigeons out, whatever it is that they want to throw out there, and they're doing that. The crowd, they're getting in there, and they get the niggle, and the terraces love when they give them a bit of that. When you get like those hard guys like Pleasance Tate, which he does so much stuff right, but he does so much stuff wrong, but he gets under skins. He gets offside, but he makes it, it affects something. It's not just like, oh, he's offside. He'll smash someone or he'll push. He's just an annoying prick, really. And he does it so well. And you just can't take it off him. And that's the difference it makes. And that gets the fans there. And that is what's made the season,
Oh, but to be fair,
result, everything else.
Pleasance Tate learned all that up here in Auckland.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
We don't have another half hour of the show to go through all the players that have left Auckland to play for other provinces. So, but we will mention that the wonderful under-21s tournament that was screened on by Sky, especially in under-21 Auckland competition, screened by Sky, especially so that other provinces could steal the players.
Yeah, thanks, Sky.
Next we'll be back at 8 p.m. on Sunday. Look, it's a cracking final round of Mitre 10 Cup fixtures. On the Friday night, you've got County Manukau versus Southland. Obviously, Southland need to win that game to make the playoffs.
Who was the only team that beat last season? Counties.
Counties, again, another side having a shocking season, only won 2 games this season. Is there a reason why the games are not being played in Palmerston North and being played, it looks like a Bush League competition? No, well, when you watch Northland play next weekend, they're up at they're on farm Northland in where? Sorry,
Kaikoui.
That's it. So look, that's another Bush. So no, it's taking the game to the people into the country. So Southland needs to win that one because look, Northland playing Waikato next weekend. That's not an easy game for Northland. So Southland could possibly overtake Northland into those playoffs. Northland versus Waikato. Waikato need that game because they want to try and want to get themselves a home semi-final. Wellington Manawatu. Look, Wellington have to win that, otherwise they're relegated. So that's a massive game for them. Otago Tasman. Otago could get a home final and put pressure on Hawke's Bay. Tasman will be trying to get themselves a home semi-final again. So again, that's another big game there. But what the Crusaders can't fix that.
How much? No. I was going to say, how much is it going to really bite the bums of the Wellington guys if they're tied on points with Canterbury? And it's Golden Point that saw them go down to the second division. Ooh, it will be Golden Point because it'll come down to who beat who, and
the result.
And Golden Point, Canterbury won.
It's not down to points difference.
No, not if it's just 2 teams. If it's 2 teams, it's who beat who.
The tiebreakers head-to-head. You quite yep. Sorry, you are right.
Of course.
Makes a change.
My colonial oppressor doesn't believe me.
Absolutely, I don't. Moving on then to Sunday, Bay of Plenty versus North Harbour. Again, another key game. Both these sides could get relegated. Both these sides could be in the playoffs. Their whole season hangs in the balance. Taranaki, Hawke's Bay. Look, Taranaki. Not much in this one. Hawke's Bay might need to just cement that home final if Otago have beaten Tasman. Otherwise, that's one of the few sort of dead rubbers. Then Canterbury, Auckland. Clearly, Canterbury need to win this one if Wellington have got anything out of that game earlier to save themselves from relegation.
That is down in Christchurch, eh?
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah, because the fake news on News Hub said it's at Eden Park.
No, Orange Theory Stadium. Well, quite what Orange Theory is, I've got no idea. But there we go. And I really don't care either.
It's a theory on an ex-president of the United States.
There goes the sponsorship. Jeez.
Oh dear. So yeah. So look, all those games apart from one, I think, have got a lot riding on it. It's a cracking end to the season, we'll be definitely, guys. Do join us at 8 p.m. We'll talk about that. We'll obviously also talk about Argentina's first game in the Rugby Championship, as well as we might also mention some of the games that are going on around in the Autumn Nations Cup as well. So lots and lots of rugby to discuss and to come next weekend. What's all these flashing hands for, Ashwin?
Because let's highlight the fact, because we learnt this one last night as well. The time for the All Blacks Argentina game next week has been changed again to 7 p.m. at New Zealand time, because it was 9 and it was 7 when we had four teams in it, and then it went to 9 o'clock, and now it's back to 7. So I think just making sure that people get that into them, that the fact is that the All Blacks Argentina game next week is at 7 o'clock New Zealand time.
7:10, but yes, to be precise.
Got to get some build up.
Got to get 10 minutes of build up. That's enough. 10 minutes of Justin Marshall build up.
More than enough.
So, folks, if you would like to support the channel, then please do obviously like, comment, all that kind of stuff. We love all that, and we will get back to all comments. But also, the big thing you could really help us with is just sharing the shows on the socials, be it Facebook, Twitter, all those wonderful places. Apparently, we're also on Instagram with the Standoff Show. So if you're, we're on the old Insta now for the Standoff Show if you're into your rugby league as well. So
that is the book.
Pardon? It's where the young ones are. The young people are. Apparently.
Yeah,
not the young ones.
Thing, isn't it? It's the book.
Anyway, Instabook. Well, it is owned by Facebook. We don't do any of that. What's that? I forgot what it is now. That short video thing. Anyway, but TikTok. Yeah, there we go. We don't TikToky. So, right, catch you all tomorrow at 7 a.m. for the morning sports briefing, folks. And great to have Cornflake back on the show. We'll put up with Ashwin. And don't forget to join him at 8 p.m. tomorrow night for the swinging from the hip. What are you going to be talking about tomorrow night, Ashwin?
A bit of Plunkett Shield, a bit of IPL, and a bit of Pakistan Zimbabwe T20 series. So sort of almost like a repeat of last week, but obviously getting to the business end of the IPL.
Fantastic. Catch you all later, folks. Thanks for joining us, and have a great start to your week.